morning, good afternoon, good evening. Sometimes a picture says it all. This posting by Lynette has been taking the rounds in the social media. When you read it, you look at the picture, you can't help but laugh. But it's one of those cases where you know you're laughing, but you know you could be crying. Because the consequences of people going to vote again in 2028 under the current political system with no reforms implemented is what got us where we are today, a failed state, where the economy is in such a sorry state that before reading this article, I was reading an article about the government promising once again that work on the Victoria Falls Bulawayo Road has started, following the posting of that photograph that went viral of three white guys lying in a pothole with baboons in the background. How many times have we heard that work on that road has started? Why was it allowed to get into that sorry state? That is the consequences of 45 years of rigged elections. Zimbabwe is a failed state because for the last 45 years, we failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. If people were able to hold free, fair, and credible elections, they would have replaced this corrupt, incompetent ZANU-PF regime a long time ago. Look what happened in 2008. The only time when Zimbabwe came the closest to holding free, fair, and credible elections. The people rejected ZANU-PF, and for good reason. The country was in a political and economic mess. Everyone could see that. And when Mnangagwa realized that ZANU-PF was rigging, he stepped in and disrupted the whole electoral process. He even boasts about it. I mean, this is one of the really amazing thing about these tyrants. They think they're untouchable. For those of you who need reminding, here he is boasting about it.
2008 patakaita ma-elections pakaposa papinda Tsvangirai ndandiri election agent ya-president. Ma-results abuda tiri pa-party headquarters vamutasa vanga vari secretary vedu ve-administration vamutasa muripi ndafona ndiri kwarusapi komo kuenda kwarusapi seka ma-results achibuda kudai vanga aiwa zvako izvo Mnangagwa ndezvo zvako endaenda kumusha ofisi vanga vabisa zvinhu zvavo zvose watofunga kuti zani yadini yaparara. President ofona zvakamira sei kati ndomamira zvakaita takatodini kateda sei manje mama ndikati abvudzai baba nditaure navo baba gadzirai politburo cabinet musarangarira zvimwe zvinhu gadzirai chi cabinet asi nangoda kuti muzive kuti 2008 ma-results abuda vamutasa vakatiza.
As a country we face a generational transition. Vana vesa vari kuma below 35 they are crying out for help. The country is in a mess. Arusuru. We know we are inheriting a mess. We know this country has been left with nothing.
I'm assuring you That is starting from tomorrow. You'll see a different nation from what you have seen or read on the news about these results and everything. Where we are going ahead there, the situation will be very different. What we said to our people, they could not see with their own eyes. We are going to act as we see it fit. We are prepared to go the whole distance.
Credit where credit is due. SADC and the AU refused to give ZANU-PF political legitimacy. And they were forced to go into the 2008 to 2013 GNU. Morgan Tsvangirai and his MDC friends failed to implement even one token reform during that GNU. The number one task of the GNU was to implement the democratic reforms to make sure that the blatant cheating in the March vote and the wanton violence in the runoff in 2008 would never happen again. Mugabe bribed Morgan Tsvangirai and his friends. And as they say, the rest is history. Ever since the GNU debacle, MDC CCC guys have participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, you're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. But they've continued to do it out of greed. The problem is with our own people as well. Chamisa and company could not explain why they'd sold out during the GNU. And so they came up with an excuse. We can win rigged elections. And ever since 2013, the nation has been dragged into one election after another on the belief, on the back of the opposition telling the people they would win rigged elections. In 2023, Chamisa was telling people he has plugged all the vote rigging loopholes to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. Of course, he was lying. Now it turns out, according to some reports, that he even failed to deploy enough election agencies. One of the basic things one should do to guard against elections being rigged. He failed to deploy election agencies at many of the polling stations, although he was given the money to do so. He pocketed the money. And now he is back. He's giving people the same empty promise that he will win rigged elections. I think this post says it all. Me watching people going to vote again in 2028 under the current political system with no reforms, and they're going to vote expecting regime change. Albert Einstein once said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. He was right. It is insane. But when you've been participating for 45 years and counting in flawed elections, so flawed, you know you'll never change the result. And most significantly, you know that if you participate, you give the vote rigging ZANU-PF legitimacy. And you still participate. I think that is not insanity. It's worse. You must be brain dead. How can any of us continue to justify this madness of participating in a flawed election that we know is flawed? That we know if we participate, we give ZANU-PF legitimacy. Just because we are conned to do so on the basis of some of the most idiotic lies you can imagine. Somebody claiming that they've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. When you and me know that the country doesn't even have something as fundamental as a verified voters roll. And later on, you hear the same individual who was claiming that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, that he didn't even bother to deploy election agencies at polling stations, although he was given the money to do so. He pocketed the money. And now he is back to tell you the same idiotic lie. And millions will believe him. That is not insanity. You must be brain dead. Thank you.